Namaste. Great to connect in with you all. My name is Emma Salvado. I am a mom, wife, yoga teacher, and I live here in Bali, the island of the gods and goddesses, with my family, teaching yoga and really immersing myself in the Balinese culture and heritage in this amazing little island that I live on. It's really a privilege to be able to open up this conversation with you today, and really about my own journey, my own dharmic journey, and especially my own dharmic journey with regards to motherhood. You know, motherhood is something that is really one of my greatest joys. I'm originally from Ireland. I was born and raised in Ireland and grew up there and lived in Ireland until I was 17. And then I moved to the UK, to London, to start university, and I was training to be a midwife. Actually, I was training under the medical umbrella. While I was at university, I met my partner at the time and was with them for a few years, and I ended up falling pregnant with my daughter at 21. So this was the beginning of my love affair with not only my daughter, but with being a parent myself. As I said, I grew up in Ireland and I lost my mum at a very young age. She passed away when I was 4, and my dad then passed away when I was 19 while I was at university. And so there was a huge gap in my heart. There was a huge gap in my life, and there was a huge gap in really my connection to God. Actually, I became very disillusioned with my life path and what it was that I was here to do and why I was here, because I had lost the two people that were most precious to me. So what I realized was that part of that journey, part of that transition that I was going through from being a maiden to being a mother, was really the journey that was opened up to me through being such a young mum. And I really realized that being a young mum was a huge part of my dharmic path. I started to practice yoga actually whenever I was pregnant with my daughter, as a way of connecting myself into not only my pregnancy, not only the birth, but also there was that part of me that was really feeling like I was disconnected from spirit. And so the pregnancy really brought me back to remembering my true essence of who I really was. And yoga helped me connect into that more deeply. And so it was a love affair actually that started in my pregnancy with yoga. That's the first time that I started to practice. And I really believe that that was one of the cornerstones to my parenting. I started to make a conscious choice that I would parent my child differently to how I had been parented. I grew up in a very religious family, very strict Protestant Christian family, and so the parenting style was something that was very strict, that there were a lot of rules and regulations, and it was a childhood that was based on a lot of fear and a lot of physical punishment. And I'm sure many people can relate to this, but it definitely wasn't the way that I envisaged for myself parenting. So after I had my daughter, I really decided that I was going to parent her in a completely different way than I myself had been parented. And that was actually such a liberation for me. I just thrived being a parent. I was still a child myself in many ways. And so I started to really look to my child, to ask her to guide me in the way that she needed to be raised. And it was a conscious decision that I started to parent differently. I started to become more curious about her world. I started to engage with her in a way that I hadn't been engaged with as a child, and I really started to parent from a place of curiosity and sovereignty, actually, for my child, realizing that she was a sovereign being and that I wasn't here as her peer to mold her into a miniature version of myself. That I really thrived on parenting the essence of her soul. I really thrived on parenting someone who was completely different to me, actually. Even though she was my daughter, she was very, very different, and I knew that from a very young age. Fast forward all of the years, 13 years later, I then had my son, and my son is a very different spirit to my daughter. But it's been really amazing because I still kept the fundamental style of parenting with him that I did with her. You know, my style of parenting is really about asking them a lot of questions rather than them asking me for the answers, is really listening to them understand their own process and their own and come to their own conclusions about what they think these bigger questions about life are. And so a lot of the things that I do in parenting are really the things that I realized that I was missing out on as a child. Presence is a huge part of that. You know, being present for my children, giving them lots of eye contact whenever I'm talking to them, making sure that they feel nurtured, that they feel safe in their home environment, and they feel safe, you know, in their life in general. Creativity is a huge part of my life as well. I am not only a yoga teacher, but I'm also an artist, and so creativity is a huge part of my connection to my children too. And being in nature, I would say, is the number one fundamental cornerstone of parenting for me. The connection that I have to my kids whenever we are in nature, whether it's having a walk on the beach or, you know, doing some activity outside, the way that I feel like I connect with my kids when we're in nature just completely opens up a different way of deepening our conversations and our, you know, outlook on life together. And so really spending time in nature, having fun, parenting from a place of curiosity, realizing that they're here to, yes, learn from me, but I'm also here to learn from them. This is a soul contract that I have with my children, and that we are here as teachers of each other. You know, I always think that the way that we have been raised to think that our parents are the wisdom keepers, yes, they are in many respects, but I really hope that every generation is getting wiser and wiser. And so I truly see that my children are the next generation, and I want to absorb their wisdom because they know things instinctively that I don't know, and they have that sense of wisdom that I really am inspired to, you know, to learn from and and listen to. So parenting for me is just really the greatest joy. I'm so grateful in this lifetime that I have the opportunity to learn, you know, from the next generation. I'm so grateful to have my children. I'm so grateful to be in this, you know, amazing land and to be able to parent them here, you know, surrounded by nature with the teachings of yoga and, you know, a whole lot of love. So thank you so much. It's been really great to share a little bit of my story with you, and I'm sure we will see each other somewhere else. Lots of love from me. Namaste.